to do this. I know there are a lot of really good people, doing a lot of really good work on Cape Cod. So I'm really humbled to have been asked to share, my personal advocacy journey, but also share a little bit of Love of Locals work and how we advocate for our local economy on a daily basis. And so just to give people a bit of background, I was born and raised on Cape Cod in Falmouth and grew up on Waquoit Bay. And it's always hard to pinpoint whether my advocacy or my desire to basically always be an advocate is nature, whether it's innate or if it was nurture, where I grew up, and also who my parents are. So it's funny that Jen mentioned that I'm kind of a new face to Housing Assistance Corporation, but I'm actually grew up running around the halls of HAC, as my mom was the development director there for a couple of decades. And so I spent a lot of time working for my mom and stuffing envelopes and doing walks. It's called the Walk for Hope now, but my mom ran the Walk for Hope back in the day, and she was actually recounting a story that when I was younger, that we had a conversation. It was apparently a very stormy day and not many people showed up for the walk, but we did, and we were walking and talking about how important it was to help people. And so, granted, a lot of my advocacy centered around the natural environment when I was growing up, and I definitely credit that to growing up in such a beautiful place and on Waquoit Bay, where when I was younger, we were talking a lot about the eutrophication of the bay, nitrogen loading into the bay, and you'll see one of my school projects was all about whether or not household products were environmentally safe. And so I was always saw myself as a champion for the Cape's natural environment, and went on to study environmental studies and get my master's in public policy and with a focus in environmental policy after graduating from college. So, community advocacy, I think in various forms has obviously, I think, been around since communities have existed. But I think the formal recognition of community advocacy is really much more recent. And I think the civil rights movement was really something that sparked a lot of, I should say the civil rights movement in the United States during the mid-20th century is a pretty significant period for the development of community advocacy. And I think this movement brought attention to the power that community can really have when we come together and work together to advocate for social change. And so why does advocacy matter, generally speaking? It provides a representation and a voice, works to ensure that the needs and concerns of a community are heard and addressed by those in power, and gives voice to those who might otherwise be overlooked. It can lead to policy change, and that could mean better infrastructure, more equitable laws and regulations. It can also lead to social change, so challenging harmful norms and promoting inclusivity and diversity and justice. It can empower people. Community members become empowered to take action and make a difference in their own lives and lives of others when they engage in community advocacy. It also strengthens the community by building networks. A lot of times you have to work with many different entities and many different people, so that can strengthen a community overall and create lasting change. And it provides educational opportunities for helping communities learn about important issues and develop new skills. And throughout college and graduate school, I continued to flex my advocacy muscles for people and the environment. But I made my way back to the Cape after finishing my degree at George Washington University. And my first job back on the Cape was with the Hyannis Main Street Business Improvement District. If you aren't familiar with the BID, it is a special assessment district that is focused on promoting the community and economic development of the Main Street Hyannis district as a desirable place to live, work, invest, and visit. And bids began popping up all over the country when the proliferation of malls and strip malls and box stores led to the divestment in main streets, downtowns, and community centers. And I could do a whole other presentation on how Main Street Hyannis has suffered the most on Cape Cod from that particular market trend. But we'll save that one for later. So this really was my first time working outside of the environmental field and with small businesses, and I came to learn how vitally important they are to local communities. And while in that role, I started the first Shop Local Days on Cape Cod and created educational materials to communicate why it was so important to support our local businesses. And not long after, I took the leap and opened my own small business, but it wasn't any old small business. I opened Shift Eco Boutique in 2009, and this really married kind of all of the things I love, the environment, downtown Hyannis, fashion, and advocacy. Because eco boutiques are definitely a niche type of boutique, and they are still sort of rare. The whole point is to bring ethically and sustainably made goods to the consumer public. And at Shift, we required that products we sold in the store be crafted from recycled, upcycled, repurposed, and sustainably grown materials using fair trade and fair labor practices. And because this was a new concept and awareness of the ills of the fashion industry were just coming to light, I had to do a lot of education and a lot of advocacy in the store, educating the customer. I also had a whole wall full of information about the fashion industry, different fabrics that are sustainable. And I also did a lot of advocacy out in the community and gave community talks and set up informational tables to really share with people why this was so important to patrons. This is also when I came to learn firsthand the challenges small businesses face. Over the past 5 decades, businesses across the country have been facing challenges due to a variety of market forces, corporate consolidation and appropriation, the rapid upsurge of online commerce, as well as public policy decisions that have favored big business over mom and pop shops. And I came to learn that small businesses nationally and right here at home are often underappreciated and undersupported. And as a small business owner, I looked around and didn't hear any voices around me saying that very loudly. So in 2013, alongside fellow small business owners, Jen Villa and Kate Sheehan, I co-founded Love Live Local to share the love of our Cape Cod experience and start talking about why it is so important to think local first, to essentially help promote and preserve the sense of place that the 3 of us connected to and that we know so many others connect to as well. And as our passion project evolved through the years, our focus came to be on communicating not just why it's important to shop local, but also to tell people how to do it. And today, Love of Local is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to strengthening Cape Cod's local economy by promoting the importance of supporting small businesses and fostering a thriving community. So we're lucky here on Cape Cod that we do have a strong local business culture, but we are not immune to what goes on over the bridge, and Love of Local is really here to remind us all of that. We work to ensure the impacts of things like corporate concentration and the shift to shopping online doesn't impact our local businesses to a point of no return. So our goal is to show people why it's important to shop local and how to do it. We do this in a few ways. We connect consumers to local businesses through our Love Local Fest, our 2 annual publications, and our retail store in downtown Hyannis. We support small businesses across the Cape through workshops and grant programs. We produce research and digital content, qualifying and quantifying how much our local businesses mean to our local economy. And we share all this information with the consumer public and policymakers because you all have an impact on how well our businesses fare here on Cape Cod. Why does Love of Local engage in advocacy? Essentially because small businesses provide a huge part of a local community's tax revenue. They provide jobs, They support local nonprofits with their time and their money. They keep our communities unique, and they keep money in the community. And I'll touch on that a little bit more later. Another reason that Level of Local engages in advocacy is because we know it is a myth that big businesses and their economies of scale make products and services cheaper, easier, more convenient, and more efficient. And unfortunately, these perceptions, or misperceptions, I should say, have led to unbridled corporate concentration in most sectors of the economy, to the point where, in spite of thinking you have so many choices and are overwhelmed by going to the grocery store, for example, when you go to buy just about anything, nearly every marketplace is dominated by just a few players. So the grocery store, it's really 11 companies that own all of those brands that are in that grocery store. And studies actually show that corporate concentration makes it almost impossible for new companies to enter and compete in many markets, and leads to stagnant wage growth. And once a market is concentrated enough, companies can and will manipulate prices. They will reduce supply and deliver terrible customer service. I'm sure we can think of a couple of companies that we deal with on a daily basis here on Cape Cod that fit that bill. And we can also think, nationally and globally about how high the prices are now, and how it doesn't feel like we have very much choice but to engage in that kind of inflationary pricing. Studies also estimate that corporate concentration like this can cost the average household between $5,000 and $50,000 a year in lost purchasing power. And a 2018 paper in the Harvard Law Review found that median compensation for workers would be more than $10,000 higher if employers were less concentrated. So now I'm going to share a couple of examples of the type of advocacy that we have carried out and that we engage in on a regular basis. So since April of 2020, Level of Local has been producing our own annual studies to quantify and assess the impact of Cape Cod's locally owned businesses on our local economy as compared to national chains and online corporations. We felt it was really important to put a dollar amount on just how much local businesses reinvest in the Cape Cod community, and to show people it's not just about supporting our friends and neighbors who own small businesses, although that is definitely one reason to support them, but it also makes financial and economic sense for all of us. Purchases from national corporations typically cause money to leave the economy, as national chains and online purchases send money outside of the community to areas where they're headquartered. When dollars are spent locally, they can in turn be respent locally, raising the overall level of economic activity. These analyses have quantified what we already knew, that local businesses of all kinds, retailers, restaurants, and personal and business service providers like fitness centers and accountants keep up to 4 times as much money in the local economy as their national chain competitors. This is due to profits paid out to local owners, wages paid to local workers, procurement of local goods and services, and support to local nonprofits. It also showed that both local retailers and restaurants need less space and sprawl to generate more revenue per square foot than their chain competitors. And put into real dollars in the retail market, a market shift of just 10% from corporate stores to independent stores on Cape Cod would retain an additional $112 million in the local economy every year. So to us, we like to say that choosing local is a little more layered than where you buy things, the things you want or need, or where you eat out. And yes, of course, where you spend your money matters, and you can do this by shopping in locally owned stores, dining at independent restaurants, using local service providers, donating to local nonprofits, banking with local banks. But there are other forms of currency that are important as well, like your time, attention, and intention. So this came about because we often hear people saying like, oh, I don't buy things. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to buy anything more for my house, or I don't spend that much money. But so we kind of answered that feedback with, well, there are other ways to invest in your community. And so we tell people they can invest their time in Cape Cod by volunteering, serving on a town board, attending community events. They can invest their attention in Cape Cod by listening to local musicians and watching local performances, reading and listening to local news sources, boosting local businesses online by giving them a good review and sharing their posts. And we always say you can invest your intention in Cape Cod by doing things like doing business directly with a local business rather than using third-party platforms like DoorDash, Amazon, eBay, or Etsy. And by exploring all this place has to offer, from the beaches to the main streets to all the great local museums that we have. And most recently, during the 2023 holiday season, we initiated the inaugural Shift Local Pledge campaign, urging Cape Codders to shift a minimum of 10% of their holiday spending towards local businesses. So going back to that 10% number, we thought it would be really doable to ask people to sign this pledge and really commit themselves to shopping local for the holiday season when they are spending money. And we gave them the tools to do so once they signed the pledge. And we had a mighty 166 individuals commit to the pledge. And then we asked them to save their receipts and report their data back to us. And together, these participants patronized 309 distinct locally owned establishments, collectively generating over $175,000 in revenue for the local economy, or for these local businesses. And notably, participants surpassed the minimum pledge requirement and directed 62% of their holiday budgets towards local businesses. And we will be participating or putting that out again this coming holiday season. And we have a lot more people that we know we can and want to reach, and who will want to be engaged in something like this. So we share this messaging in a lot of different ways. One is our retail store. As you can see from this picture, we not only do we sell about 100 local makers and brands in our store, but we pepper our messaging throughout the store. So we have signage that tells people, like, you are making an impact with your purchasing power. We also, in our annual publications, we will write articles that talk about the importance of shopping local and thinking local first and choosing local. And we'll also tell people how to do it. And so we write articles and put those in our annual publications. And then, of course, at our festivals, where this past December, our fests, we had about 10,000 people walk through the festival in December. We have signage all over the park, also indicating to people their impact on the local economy by being there and showing up for their local businesses. So we use all of the platforms that we have, in addition to engaging with the press. We consistently engage with our local press and participate in community events, whether we organize them or not. This middle picture is we had a showing at Cape Cinema of Hello Bookstore, which was a documentary about a bookstore kind of surviving through the pandemic. And we invited our local businesses up to also talk about their experience through the pandemic, and talk about the importance of their customer relationships, but also, the challenges that they went through. And then we give community presentations to our local select boards, and with great collaborative partners like Amplify POC, and we engage with our local business community on a regular basis to find out their most pressing issues. And this is how we found out what they were struggling with, on a macro and micro scale throughout COVID, and how we came to find out that the housing shortage here on Cape Cod is their most challenging issue right now. We also present to our local, state, and national governments whenever we can, because they play a huge role in ensuring their growth and subsequent reinvestment in our towns and entire region. There are many policy and programmatic decisions that they make that are made every day, that can support our small businesses on their path to success. And we try to advocate for things like reducing the cost of doing business whenever possible, providing access to resources through grants and technical assistance, increased procurement of local goods and services whenever possible, investing in local broadband capabilities, and ending any special treatment that there might be for national corporations. And we also advocate for limiting corporate power and concentration through things like antitrust actions and there's a lot of that going on at the national level right now, and things like right to repair laws that we see a lot at the state level. And whether you come to advocacy through personal experiences or challenges you've faced, a passion for a cause, or because of learning about an issue, being inspired, or just having a desire to create a positive change, I have found that effective local advocacy happens when there's a deep understanding of the local community, including its needs, priorities, and challenges, when there's collaboration with other like-minded people and organizations, when it's clear what you're setting out to achieve. It's also important to engage the people who are impacted by the issue at hand, and those that can do something about it. We communicate directly with people in all ways that I've stated before, but also through our bi-monthly email, our social media, and we try to do, whenever we're communicating through any of these channels, we do so honestly and authentically. And it's important to know that advocacy can be a long-term process, requiring persistence and the ability to adapt strategies based on changing circumstances. And it's important to look at your activities at least on an annual basis to evaluate their effectiveness and reflect on your successes. It's really important to celebrate your wins, but also your continued challenges. And I've also found it's very worthwhile to say yes to most opportunities to engage with the community, but it's also important to respect and honor those requests, and to participate in a meaningful way, and to follow through on your commitments. And then I think it's also incredibly important to take care of yourself throughout the process. So it's easy to get burned out in this work. And so I think it's very, very important to try to create boundaries and honor those boundaries within yourself, and then people will honor them with you. And this is our information. And if anyone has any questions, I will take them now.
Excellent. I'll remove the spotlight on you here. I can figure out how. There we go. So I just want to say, I forgot to mention that you were the Mercy Otis Warren Award winner, which is like an amazing award. I mean, that goes to like people who give it all and defend their community. And, you know, I think you're right on when you talk about advocacy. It is a long slog. And, you know, oftentimes we have lofty goals and we say to ourselves, why can't it just happen? And the reason is because it's a slow process to turn minds and find passion and really tap into talent that we have. But you guys have done such a fantastic job. You have done a fantastic job defending our local and our economy through COVID and beyond. And still, like, president of the library board, right, in Hyannis now still, and on the LCP, the Local Comprehensive Plan Committee. You know, you'll never get that time back, I promise you that. That's what happens with these meetings, is they go on and on and on, right? And you know, we hope through discourse to figure it out. So the reason I invited you here tonight, and this is recorded in case anybody wants to show this to anyone, we'll send out the email saying it is because, you know, I've been trying in my role here to talk about housing in a way that is not connected to politics, in a way that's connected to the economy, in a way that you know, where we can talk about, you know, there is no retailer, there is no restaurateur that says they have too much business. They will tell you they don't have enough people.
Yeah.
And they don't have enough people because we don't have enough housing.
Yep.
And Amanda has been fantastic in pointing that out. The other thing that I get from your presentation is the passion that you have, which is, it's really irreplaceable. And, you know, that really is what makes an advocate, is somebody who can, you know, can do the long slog, can get up every day and say one foot in front of the other. Today didn't, or yesterday didn't go right, today might. And keep pulling and keep, you know, kind of reinventing and re-strategizing and tirelessly. And, you know, it's you're a rare breed, you know, to be able to do that. So I do want to share a couple comments that Jeannie Morrison put in the chat. One about the 11 companies.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, why doesn't everybody know this? Thank you, Amanda. The information is very important. It indicates that we need a game changer. And then she went on to say, high five. I love the messaging and the action items Love Live Local has created for others to be involved. It's very impressive and empowering.
Thank you,
So,
Jean.
yeah, she's great. So, does anybody have any questions for Amanda about how to get started or what the economic tie might be? Anybody want to speak? You can chime right in if you do. We have a small enough group where we can do that this time.
Set. That's harder.
So Amanda, this is
Ah.
Gordon Starr. I'm just wondering if the local matters reports could be relayed to the town council. I think
Yes, yes.
either I will talk at an agenda meeting and see if we can get you on the agenda.
That would be great. I have been doing my little world tour of the select boards and town council. So I was able to present to the Orleans Select Board and the Harwich Select Board recently, and was definitely going to reach out to Barnstable to figure out, what that could look like. Because I have it's a good presentation that will sum up a lot of that data. And I think it's just, a lot of times I feel like we kind of inherently think we know a lot of this stuff, but it does help to have the data to back it up. And I'm a huge advocate of, we were very lucky that was, one of the things that we were able to do in 2020. And it was kind of, a response to COVID was, do some quantitative analyses to remind people, even when things start opening back up, we still have to patronize these local businesses. It's not just during times of crisis, right? So, yeah. So I would love that.
So yeah, we'll get it. We have budget meetings coming up, so
Yeah.
we're a little squeezed at the moment. But after
Yeah.
May, we can fit you in. So my other question is, so the reports you did in 2020, were they private? I mean, could we do them again?
Well, so we could.
What would it take?
Yeah, so the 2020 report was retailers and restaurants. We did and hotels, a quantitative analysis on how much they recirculate in the community. The 2021 was a deep dive into corporate concentration in different, I think it was 8 economic sectors, and how it impacts our local businesses that participate in those sectors. And then the 2022 report was another quantitative analysis on service providers, because they feel like they get left out of the conversation a lot, this kind of choose local, shop local conversation. And we were hearing that from them. And so we said, let's try to do that. The quantitative analysis is done by a consultant. So if town council wants to put it in their budget, we'll happily. There is a report though that that I've been wanting updated from the town of Barnstable. Did a report in the year 2000 on box stores and their impact on the like not necessarily the local economy, but like the tax base and stuff. And I would love to see that updated.
Yeah, I'd like to see how more housing affects the economy too.
Yes.
But,
yeah. I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Gordon. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
So
We've been advocates together. And that's
so
how
I just want to add to it. So I'm Jen Brand with Open Cape, huge advocate of Amanda and the support that she gives. As we're talking about, we have to stop talking about tourism here on the Cape and what is a sustainable future for us year round. And so I really think Amanda does an amazing job of highlighting some of these small businesses with an opportunity of where they can open a storefront for long-term purposes, which is obviously fantastic for our year-round economy. And again, for the housing, to be able to provide those services locally is really important. And a huge advocate. I work at Open Cape as a nonprofit, so obviously mission-based, but born and raised here, have a different feeling about the culture here on the Cape and preserving that, because it's really important. It's really what drives a lot of people here. So I hate to say selling out to big box, but yes, that is really taking away from our culture and who we are as a community. And I can't I can't appreciate enough of what you do, Amanda. And I did partake in that, I don't want to say survey, but what you did at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And that impact, you really have to share that more widely. And you know, I tried to share it and tried to promote it as well, because I don't think people understand how little steps have such a big impact on everybody as a whole. And we all want to live here, we all want to work here, but you know, trying to afford here and live here are two different things too. So
Yeah.
trying to understand how those effects, yes, it might cost a little bit more to support that local person, but because those monies stay here, it helps us in other ways as well.
Yeah, and you know, I think there is sometimes the cost differential is perception and not reality. It's not necessarily always. I think there's this assumption that it's going to cost more money, but there are a lot of things that are, you know, similar price. And then and thank you for participating in the Shift Local Pledge. And on average, the average spend per person was $1,000, which isn't, you know, you think about that, like that's not that much for a holiday, like shopping. And then and that was 166 people that generated a little over $175,000. Think about what 500 people would do, what 1,000 people would do. And you know, that's something that that's just like shifting a little bit. It can make a huge difference. So we will be definitely pushing that a lot more, because we think it's something that consumers really connect to. It's an easy thing to do. Sign that pledge, and then you just save your receipts. Well, I mean, I didn't. I just looked at my bank statement, but you can't, you know, and you can save your receipts, and then report back to us. And I do have to say, everything we do is it's love of local driven, and I'm just happen to be the mouthpiece. But the local businesses really, they incentivize people reporting out that data too. So we had 30 local businesses give us gift certificates and products, and we had 4 winners of they entered into this raffle, and they each got like $400 worth of stuff because the local businesses were like, yes, we love this. So.
And
The other thing it does is it really creates a sense of community. Anybody who was on the green for that holiday thing, I mean, it was humming.
Yeah.
Like we were all together. We were all, it was excellent. And, we lack that right now. It's really difficult. The housing crisis has really, really crumbled a lot of that for us, and created a big divide in political discussions, which is why I think it's time to start talking about economy.
Yeah. And I do think we speak for the businesses whenever we can, because they're so busy running their businesses. They're, they don't have the time necessarily, but, I do know that more and more of them, it's like every single business I talk to cannot find enough workers. They cannot find enough people to meet the needs, their needs. And it's not just in the summer, it is year round. And the biggest issue is they can't find housing. It's not that people don't want to work. It's that they cannot find a place to live here. And it's not even just like, it's all kinds of housing, diversification of choice really, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not just apartments, it's missing middle housing. It's, we had hired a new athletic director at Barnstable High School, and he had to go because he couldn't find housing.
Yeah.
So it's the good paying jobs too. There's just nothing available.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a really strong message. I hope you bring that to your select boards, and I'll pay you $10 to bring it to town council.
Yeah, no, every presentation I give to the select boards, we highlight the challenges. I think their challenges, the 2 that we hear from businesses most often, it was housing, and then dealing with towns, and navigating that whole process of permitting and what they have to do and what they can't do, So I think, and however we can be helpful in that is we try to do that.
Yeah. Anybody else have a comment or a question?
Well, I was just gonna echo what Gordon had said as well of the studies that Amanda's done. I had even said to her on some of the ones she's done, they just have such an impact. And she said to me one day, she's like, Jen, if you only knew how much work was put into this, like, I don't even know if I have it in me to do it again. But I do echo what Gordon said. It's really valuable to understand all the different studies you've done and how it impacts us locally and how we can all, I mean, we talk about collaboration all the time. No one entity is really going to be able to do this. It's really coming together with the people, and you hear me say this all the time, that stop talking and start doing, that start
Yeah.
taking the actionable steps to actually get stuff done.
Yeah, I always say those reports are like my PhD's dissertation. But I didn't get the degree. So, but the one thing that I will say about that is that we do the reports are there for like the policy wonks and the people who really want to dive into it. But then and Jen Villa is on this call, so I will just point her out. She is my co-founder and marketing director, and she definitely directs, like, we have infographics that also explain what's in the reports that's easy for people to consume, and easy little bites of information we can share on social media. So we're trying to, meet people where they are in our advocacy and try to speak to all different kind of groups within the one. And I have to say, like, I think we've done that pretty effectively. And so I appreciate you saying that, Jen. I feel bad. Jill, you came off mute.
Yes, I wanted to actually follow up. I mean, I really have a question about the reports. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation this evening and checking out your website as we're going on and looking at these reports, which I didn't know about. I'm the housing coordinator for Brewster, so I'm really in the housing lane here. I'd really like to know from your reports, are there any ones that you would really say highlight housing issues and that would be especially helpful for housing advocates?
Well, no, but that's, now that you and Gordon have both said that, now I'm like, oh, darn, are we gonna have to, Jen, maybe we gotta find something to,
Yeah.
because yeah, like having, and there are, we do have the Cape Cod Commission, which, they do great work about, around housing and identifying, the issues and stuff, but I like the kind of how it impacts the economy, and how that impacts our local businesses. I think that would be a really good, yes, so thank you for that.
I know the Cape Cod Chamber was doing, Paul Niedzwiecki was doing some like CEO corner chats about exactly that, housing and the Cape economy. So we could get a roundtable together with him and work through some stuff. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And then, but I think
the collaboration.
And the key, I think, is being able to communicate it in those bite size, it's having the report for the people who want to read that and who that's how they absorb information. But a lot of people absorb it very, quick, graphically, digitally. And so I think that's also very important.
Matt.
Hi, you made a great presentation.
Thank you.
Just something quick on the housing. It's been a little bit challenging the last couple of weeks for me. Here, the Davenport companies, among the companies we have is a residential realty division, which is exclusively year-round rentals. And there is still a very big pushback among many in the community. Anytime we're putting a project up, and again, everything we build is just for a year. We don't do Airbnb. We don't, it's just year-round housing. And the crazy pushback we're getting from people is just, amazing, and so I guess my point is that as a community at large, in terms of, you talk about advocacy, I think we still have a long way to go in communicating a message about the need for year-round housing here on the Cape. And, it's just every time it's just people, there's still a pretty hardcore group that is just doesn't want any housing for anybody here. They've got theirs, and they don't want anyone else to have theirs, period.
Yeah.
We're building some 2-bedroom homes. They're going to be rental homes, not Airbnbs or anything in Yarmouth. And people are just accusing us of everything, that we're going to just put, I didn't want to go down the road, but they're, saying we're building them just for immigrants. I mean, it's crazy what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. On a larger issue, I think for the community, we need to continue to educate the community about the need for for housing and why we're building year-round housing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with this kind of newfound partnership with HAC, we're definitely going to be entering that space a lot more, and also encouraging our local business owners to do the same. And people like me have to share our stories. Like as Jen said, I won the Mercy Otis Warren Woman of the Year award this year. And whether or not that was whatever, there's a lot of great women who could have won it, but I did. And if I did not have family housing here on Cape Cod, I would not be here. I came home, I lived with my parents for many years, and now I live in my husband's family home that is very affordable for us. I would not be here. So people like me are leaving and are never coming because they cannot find a place that is attainable for them. So I think that's something like people like me have to start, sharing that story as well. And it's like,
And
no,
that's-
you
yeah,
guys
that's a
are
really
housing
personal thing,
Yeah, it is a very personal thing. I'm
Yeah.
not, like it's not, doesn't feel awesome to be like, I lived with my parents for 8 years when I moved back to Cape Cod, it's like, but I did it because I was invested in this community and I wanted to be here. But there are lots of people who could give the same amount of care and energy and love to this community that won't ever get here because they don't
Yeah.
have a place.
Can I comment on that, Matt? I just wanted to tell you what HPCC does with regard to that. And, one of the things I've been working on here is advocating groups like Love Live Local and like the NAACP and like Amplify, that already have an active membership, like Amanda's, that understand that advocacy is work, that understand that it's not a passive thing to be an advocate. It's very much boots on the ground. And, it's working. Like we're getting a lot of good people that are coming out and talking about things now. But, it's not going to change the minds of those people that are saying no. I mean, what we're going to do, hopefully, is drown them out with people who say yes. But it's difficult when we have elected leaders with bumper stickers on the back of their car that say we're full, keep Cape Cod authentic.
Yeah.
That's really scary. So, we talk about advocacy being a long slog with a long timeline. Indeed it is. And, I think what we all need to do is look to the next local elections and be really wise about how our local communities work, why local matters. And that's why Love Live Local can, move beyond, shop owners and entrepreneurs and move into local politics a little bit and really nudge that. But we've got a long fight ahead of us. I mean, it took a long time to get this way. It's going to take a long time to get out. So the next advocacy seminar we do, and I'm not cutting this short by any stretch, I just want you to know that it's going to be Matt Levesque, who's the president of the town council in Barnstable, who's going to talk about bullying and advocacy. Because a lot of the reason why people don't come to the mic or write an op-ed is because they're afraid of kickback on social media. And Matt and I have been, kicked around a lot on social media. I have some really gross samples of things that get thrown in your face. And so it's something you need to consider, before you run for office. But nonetheless, your heart has to be there, like Amanda's is, So I'm not going to talk anymore. Thank you for that. And I think Erica would like to speak.
Oh, hi. Thank you. I work for Greg Clancy Construction in Falmouth. I grew up on the Cape. We've done a few projects with Falmouth Housing Trust, some affordable housing units. We just finished up a 4-unit development. And we did one last year before I was actually with the company. But one of the gals that got one of the houses works here in Falmouth. She's kind of what you were talking about, Amanda. Grew up here, has been living, was with her parents for a while. She's a single mom, works her tail off in the school systems and is like, where am I going to live? Her parents are at the age where they're selling their big house. She can't afford it. So they were moving out. She's like, I'm in a winter rental from somebody else in the school system that's like, hey, you can stay here for the winter, but then what? By the grace of God, she's been on these lottery lists for years and years. And she finally thank goodness, because she was about, a half of a pay raise away from not even being eligible anymore. So she finally got a house. And, I constantly share, anything I see online that has like another lottery or anything, I'm constantly sharing it because, like you said, I grew up here too. And I'm like, luckily we bought our house, I think 7 years ago. So it was like right before everything skyrocketed. So I'm like a lucky one.
Right.
But I have another, sister of a friend, the mom messaged me and she's like, do you work for them? Like, can you help? She's like, same thing. Her daughter, a divorced mom of 2 kids, works in the school system as a speech pathologist, she's actually phased out because her child support hurts her over the limit. And she's like, she's not like, these are really important people to our kids and to our community and to our future that they can't stay here.
Yeah.
So I feel the pain for all these people. I'm like, I'm lucky, but I'm like, things can change and shift. And I'm like, and then what happens, you know?
Yeah.
No, and I feel very fortunate too, and I recognize my privilege. I really do. And I do want to say that, like I mentioned in the beginning, my mother worked for Housing Assistance Corporation when I was a child, and I remember her talking about workforce housing in the 80s and how it was a challenge. And it's like, we can't ignore this anymore. It's not one of those things we can just be like, no, we'll just keep everything the same, because the same got us into this mess.
Right. And to Matt's point too, when, saying there's these group of people that are like, no, like, where are you guys going to go out to eat? Like, where are you going? Because there's going to be no one to service all of these industries and shops and like, you know what I mean? It's just a disastrous thing to think about.
I don't know if you all saw Brian's comments in the chat, but he is a Barnstable police officer, and he said that the police officers, which, they make like a decent, living, and can't find a place they're living with parents or whether they're single or married and can't find a place. So it's where that's an issue. Police, fire, all of that stuff. So,
If I can just mention one thing too, that's really frightening is the way this is going down on zoning boards and on planning boards and select boards, which are the quasi-judicial and judicial committees that legislate for our towns, right? The way this is going down is that they're mandated to do something. They know that they have to do some zoning. But if they bring, like, for instance, I'll talk about what I know intimately, which is Main Street and Hyannis. I was on the council with Gordon when we did this. We passed form-based code, which was 4 stories by right. 4-story was set back, so it wasn't like a tunnel. A lot of thought went into that. Years of work went into that. And we did that because we knew that form-based code is kind of like a predictable path to completion of a project, right? Where there are projected costs that can be predictable, and there's a pathway that is predictable for developers. And if you want to look at a webinar on that, I did one with Elizabeth Jenkins about a month ago, and it's on the Housing to Protect Cape Cod website. So at any rate, we passed that, and immediately we had partners who wanted to fix the dilapidated Cascade and these other places, right? So what's happening now is there's new talk with a new council to roll all that back and maybe take away the 4th story. Well, you know what that does? The 4th story makes the numbers not work. Right. And so, so then we can't have the level of affordable we wanted. Instead, we're just going to jack up the prices. And what does that do? It forces a demographic out. Right. So all of this is very, very interconnected. And if any of you want to come to town council or any select board and talk about that, I think it's really important, because you can have a select board or a town council that says it's pro-housing and pass legislation that looks pro-housing, knowing the whole time it's not going to pencil out in the end.
Yeah.
And then what is keeping Cape Cod authentic at that point?
Yeah. And I know it can be intimidating to go and speak up and to, be a public advocate, but really all people need to do is share their own stories and share their own experiences. And the people up there they're elected to listen to you. I mean, that's part of their job, and to represent you. So, and I think it could also be, you start small by emailing your select board members or your town council representative. And then you could write a letter of support of something or write a letter about something and then get up to the mic. I know it can feel intimidating, but hearing people's experiences, and not just the same people that show up every single week to the podium, but like all, you know, diversity in all its forms, those types of experiences is very important.
And if you are interested in doing that and you feel intimidated by it, please call me or reach out to me at Hack and I will help you do it. We can craft your thoughts on a paper. You can read a statement. You know, when I was on the council, now that I'm on the school committee, we read everything that comes our way. It's our job to do that. And we have, you know, we could email it to Gordon and say, Gordon, please read this statement on behalf of so-and-so. If you're too intimidated to go, or, you know, you don't want to zoom in or whatever. I mean, just so that there is a variety of voices heard. I know, Joe put something in the chat. I just wanted to share. The housing shortage is also affecting seniors. Many
Yep.
find themselves wanting to downsize because they can no longer maintain where they are. It's easy for them to sell, but then they can't find something smaller to be able to stay here. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents just went through this and they wanted to downsize and they really could, they lost one bedroom, you know, but like they wanted something much smaller because they also wanted to be able to use that investment and use it for something else, and they couldn't. It's all tied up in this large single family home that they no longer necessarily need. And so that's a really good point, Joe.
Yeah.
Can I say something
Yeah,
here?
Gordon, go.
No, I think what Amanda's talking about has, I think we need more condo or more small house ownership opportunities instead of
Yep.
rentals. And we
Yep.
talk about big box stores, and I look at Hanover One, which is between BJ's and behind BJ's in the industrial park in Hyannis, and it looks like it's a box store to me because there are 272 units. It's about $500,000 a month that goes back over the bridge. So it's nice to have, you know, was it Clancy and Erica and Matt from Davenport to have local companies building
Yep.
smaller. It keeps the workers here. It employs people. It's nice to have a lot more smaller projects going on. I don't know how to break them up, but
Yeah.
at the moment, the Hanover One company, New England Development, is planning another 280 units between that building and BJ's. They want to put more housing down in the sand pit. So, but that,
Probably no playgrounds.
but yeah, no, they've already given away the open space.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I guess that's my comment. Thank you.
I mean, my preference is always that it's a local
Yep.
company, you know, local company, local developer, where that is, you know, practical. And then hopefully if they're not local, they actually care about our local. That's like the next tier, you know, and will actually, you know, invest in this community in a meaningful way. Yeah, those are definitely, you know, our preference with everything. So.
Well, and I just want to contribute to that as well. My husband has a drywall business, has been running it for 20 years here on the Cape. And we find all the time that people are going off Cape because they can get it cheaper. And so, yes,
Yeah.
you can get it cheaper off Cape because they're lowballing it to try to keep their big, huge teams together.
Yeah.
But yes, so it really depends on the local people pushing for local vendors versus, you know, not accepting that the big outfit's going to be able to come and do that. And so trying to keep the money local, it really affects it all the way around.
Yeah, agreed. That's great. Anybody else? Thank you all so much for coming tonight. Amanda, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I'm not turning my camera on because I've been cleaning the basement all day and you don't need to see that. But I just wanted to say two things. One about Gordon's point about, you know, the money going over the bridge. We're losing 50%, 40 to 50% of our local money because the workers live over the bridge. So they still drive home and spend the money in their communities, wherever they live, not here. So that's another push for local housing.
Mhm.
And to what Matt said, my running around for the past 4 years screaming housing, housing, housing. There were some people who accused me of being a communist because I was trying to shut down developers. And the one thing I say to everybody is, look at Davenport. They rent year round. They build to rent year round. They just they're building a duplex in Harwich, and they donate to community organizations, and they are a good neighbor. And we should not only be supporting them, we should be celebrating them, in hopes that A, it convinces the community not to oppose them, but B, maybe it will guilt some of the developers I do loathe into being better partners. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you for always showing up too. It's always nice to see you.
Mhm.
So anyone else?
Great.
Amanda, when is your next Live Love Local? get together?
Love, live local, lead
Love,
with
Live-
the heart.
excuse me, Love, Live. Local.
Lead with the heart. Come on, Gordon.
What, the next, event,
Yes,
last Sunday in July.
okay,
So, last Sunday in July, last Sunday in September, first Saturday in December. Yeah, and it's gonna be a good time, and it's a great economic development tool for downtown Hyannis, for sure.
We'll be there. We'll be there at this one because we're sponsors.
Yes,
Housing to Protect Cape Cod will be there.
Yeah.
Great.
very excited. I'm very excited about this partnership, and it's.
Yeah, it's gonna be great because this is exactly what we need to do is collaborate more and talk more about this problem and, put faces to the problems, right? I mean,
Yep.
just like the fact that Matt's saying like you're building for, migrants or whatever. I mean, we're building for entrepreneurs, we're building for police, we're building for,
Yep.
Our community. And we could be making neighborhoods instead of putting these massive 280 unit things in the middle of a sand pile, as Gordon said, but the tools are the 40B tool or the, whatever tools they're using, and they're dull. They need to be sharpened a little bit, right? Yeah. Thank you all very much for coming. This will be
Thank you,
probably
guys.
a couple of days it takes to load it up. And I'll send out an email to everyone so that it has been loaded up, and please share it with your friends and keep showing up and advocating for things that matter in your community because, it's incumbent upon us to change things. It's our job. So
Mhm.
thank you all. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.
thank you, Amanda, thank you, Jen.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.